the dark water below. His suit jacket flapped in the cold October wind as he stared down into the rushing current, thinking about how easy it would be to just let go. The city was just waking up around him, but he felt more alone than ever in his 35 years of life. His company was worth billions, his penthouse apartment overlooked the entire city, and his bank account could buy anything money could touch. But none of it mattered. His parents were gone, killed in a car crash when he was 22. His marriage had crumbled when he discovered his wife only loved his money, not him. His so-called friends disappeared when his depression made him less fun to be around. Even his therapist seemed to be going through the motions during their sessions. Nathan closed his eyes and felt the wind push against his back. One step forward and all the emptiness would end. One step and he would never have to wake up in that cold, silent penthouse again. One step and he would never have to pretend to care about board meetings or profit margins or any of the meaningless things that filled his days. "Don't jump, mister." The small voice cut through the wind and Nathan's dark thoughts like a ray of sunshine. He opened his eyes and looked down to see a little girl with curly black hair and 2 ponytails, wearing a pink jacket that had seen better days. She was holding the hand of a young woman with beautiful brown skin and worried eyes. Nathan turned his head to look at them properly. The woman appeared to be in her late 20s, dressed in a simple blue dress and a thin coat that wasn't nearly warm enough for the October morning. Her work shoes were scuffed, and she carried a large purse that probably held everything she needed for a long day. Despite her obvious struggles, there was something gentle and strong in her face. "Please don't jump, mister," the little girl said again, her voice carrying a sincerity that hit Nathan like a physical blow. "My mommy says jumping hurts." The woman, who Nathan assumed was the child's mother, took a careful step forward. Her eyes never left his face, and Nathan could see she was scared but determined. "Hi there," she said softly. "My name is Tanya, and this is my daughter Riley. We were just walking to the bus stop when Riley saw you. She has a good heart and she's worried about you." Nathan felt tears he didn't know he was holding back start to roll down his cheeks. When was the last time anyone had been worried about him? When was the last time anyone had spoken to him with such genuine concern, without wanting something in return? Nathan's voice came out as a whisper. "I don't think anyone would miss me." "I would miss you," Riley said matter-of-factly. "I don't even know you, but I would miss you. Mommy always says every person matters." Tanya nodded, taking another small step closer. "Riley's right. I don't know what's hurting you so much right now, but I promise you that your life has value. You matter to someone even if it doesn't feel like it right now." "You don't understand," Nathan said, his hands gripping the concrete ledge. "I have everything anyone could want, but I have nothing that actually matters. I'm completely alone." "You're not alone right now," Tanya said gently. "Riley and I are here with you. And if you come down from there, you won't have to be alone today." Are you feeling the emotional weight of this moment? This story shows how sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can change everything. If you're moved by Tanya and Riley's compassion, please subscribe to see how their lives become forever intertwined. What do you think will happen next? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Nathan looked down at Riley, who was watching him with such trust and hope in her 5-year-old eyes. He thought about how this little girl had stopped on her way to what was probably a difficult day, just to worry about a stranger. He thought about how her mother had approached him with kindness instead of calling for help or walking away. "What's your name, mister?" Riley asked. "Nathan," he said, surprised by how normal his voice sounded. "Hi, Nathan. Do you want to walk with us? Mommy and I are going to get breakfast after the bus. You can come if you want." Nathan felt something shift inside his chest. This child was inviting him to breakfast as if he was just a regular person, not someone who had been standing on the edge of a bridge ready to die. Her innocence and kindness were like a light in the darkness that had been consuming him. "Okay," Nathan said quietly. "I think I would like that." Very slowly, Nathan stepped down from the ledge and back onto the sidewalk. His legs were shaking and he had to lean against the bridge railing for support. Tanya moved closer, her hand hovering near his arm in case he needed help but not touching him without permission. "Thank you," Nathan whispered, looking between Tanya and Riley. "Thank you for stopping. Thank you for caring about a stranger." "Everyone deserves kindness," Tanya said simply. "And Riley has never met a stranger, have you, baby?" Riley shook her head. "Mommy says there are just friends we haven't met yet." Nathan felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Hope. Maybe his life wasn't over. Maybe there were still good people in the world. Maybe he wasn't as alone as he thought. As they walked away from the bridge together, Nathan didn't know that this moment would change all 3 of their lives forever. He didn't know that the little girl who had saved his life with 4 simple words would become the daughter he had always wanted. He didn't know that her mother would become the love he had given up hope of finding. All he knew was that for the first time in months he wanted to see what tomorrow would bring. The 3 of them walked slowly toward the bus stop, Riley chattering happily between them about her favorite breakfast foods and asking Nathan questions about where he lived and if he had any pets. Tanya watched Nathan carefully, making sure he seemed steady on his feet, ready to catch him if he faltered. Nathan found himself smiling for the first time in weeks as he listened to Riley's endless stream of conversation. Her joy was infectious, and her complete acceptance of him as a new friend was healing something broken inside his heart. When they reached the bus stop, Nathan realized he didn't want this connection to end. These 2 people had shown him more genuine care in 20 minutes than he had received from anyone in years. He wanted to know more about them, wanted to understand how a mother and daughter who clearly had so little could have so much love to give to a stranger. "Tanya," Nathan said carefully as they waited for the bus. "Would you let me buy you and Riley breakfast? I mean somewhere nice. Not just fast food." Tanya looked at him with surprise. "Nathan, you don't need to do that. We were just being kind." "I know you were just being kind," Nathan said. "That's exactly why I want to do this. Please, let me say thank you properly." Riley tugged on her mother's coat. "Mommy, can we have pancakes? The kind with the whipped cream on top?" Tanya smiled at her daughter and then looked back at Nathan. She could see that this meant something important to him, and her heart was too good to refuse someone who needed a friend. "Okay," she said. "We would love to have breakfast with you." As the bus approached, Nathan realized he hadn't thought about ending his life once since Riley had first spoken to him. Instead, he was thinking about pancakes and whipped cream and getting to know the 2 people who had saved him. The breakfast at the small diner had turned into something Nathan would remember for the rest of his life. Riley had indeed ordered pancakes with whipped cream and had somehow managed to get more of the sweet topping on her face than in her mouth. Tanya had been gracious and kind, but Nathan could see the worry in her eyes when she checked her phone and realized she was going to be late for her first job. "I should really get going," Tanya said, wiping Riley's face with a napkin. "Mrs. Johnson is expecting Riley, and I have to be at the cleaning company by 9. Nathan had insisted on paying for their breakfast, and as they prepared to leave, he had made a decision that surprised even him. "Tanya, would it be okay if I stayed in touch? I mean, you and Riley saved my life today. I'd like to know that you're both doing well." Tanya had hesitated for a moment, but something in Nathan's eyes convinced her that his request came from genuine gratitude, not from any bad intentions. She had given him her phone number, and they had parted ways with promises to talk soon. But within 2 hours, Nathan found himself in the emergency room of City General Hospital. The emotional weight of the morning, combined with the fact that he hadn't eaten or slept properly in days, had caught up with him. He had collapsed in his office, and his assistant Rebecca had called an ambulance. Now he lay on a hospital bed, connected to monitors and 4 lines, feeling more alone than ever. The doctors said he was suffering from exhaustion and dehydration, but Nathan knew the real problem was deeper than that. His body was fine. It was his spirit that was dying. He was staring at the ceiling when he heard a familiar voice in the hallway. "Excuse me, nurse. I'm looking for Nathan Pierce. He's a friend of mine." Nathan's heart jumped. It was Tanya's voice. She had somehow found out he was here and had come to check on him. He couldn't believe it. A moment later, Tanya appeared in the doorway with Riley holding her hand. Tanya looked worried and tired, and Nathan realized she had probably had to leave work to come here. "Nathan," Tanya said, moving quickly to his bedside. "I heard on the radio that a man had been taken to the hospital from the same building where we had breakfast. I had a feeling it might be you. Are you okay?" Nathan felt tears welling up in his eyes again. "You came?" he whispered. "You actually came." "Of course I came," Tanya said, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. "Friends look out for each other." Riley climbed up onto the chair next to Nathan's bed. "Are you sick, Nathan? Do you need medicine?" "I'm okay, sweetie," Nathan said, reaching out to touch Riley's small hand. "I just got a little tired." "Mommy gets tired too," Riley said seriously. "She works at 2 jobs and sometimes she falls asleep on the couch. But she always makes me dinner first." Nathan looked at Tanya with new understanding. "2 jobs," he said quietly. Tanya blushed slightly. "It's not a big deal. Lots of people work multiple jobs." "What kind of jobs?" Nathan asked gently. "I clean offices in the morning and I work at a grocery store in the evening," Tanya said. "And sometimes I do babysitting on weekends when Mrs. Johnson can watch Riley." Nathan felt something twist in his chest. Here was a woman who worked herself to exhaustion to provide for her daughter, and she had still taken time out of her day to worry about him, a stranger who had more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes. "Tanya, you missed work to come here, didn't you?" Nathan said. Tanya shrugged. "They'll understand. Family emergency." "But I'm not family," Nathan said. "Yes, you are," Riley piped up. "Mommy says we choose our family with our hearts, not just with our blood." Nathan felt his throat tighten with emotion. These two incredible people had claimed him as family after knowing him for less than 4 hours. Meanwhile, his own blood relatives had never shown him a fraction of the care that Tanya and Riley were showing him right now. A doctor entered the room, interrupting Nathan's thoughts. "Mr. Pierce, I'm Dr. Martinez. How are you feeling?" "Better," Nathan said, and he meant it. Having Tanya and Riley here had already improved his condition more than any medicine could. "Good. Your test results show that you're suffering from severe exhaustion and mild dehydration. Have you been eating regularly? Sleeping?" Nathan shook his head. "Not really. I've been going through a difficult time." Dr. Martinez nodded understandingly. "I'm going to recommend that you stay overnight for observation, just to be safe. Is there anyone we should call? Family member? Close friend?" Nathan started to say no the way he always did, but then he looked at Tanya and Riley. "Actually, yes. These are my friends. Tanya and Riley Williams." Dr. Martinez smiled. "It's good that you have support. That makes a big difference in recovery." After the doctor left, Nathan turned to Tanya. "I need to ask you something, and I want you to know that I'm asking as someone who cares about you both, not as someone who's trying to, I don't know, buy your friendship or something." Tanya looked at him carefully. "Okay. I heard what Riley said about you working 2 jobs and falling asleep on the couch. I can see how hard you work, how much you sacrifice for Riley. And I want to help." Tanya's expression became guarded. "Nathan, we're fine. We don't need charity." "It's not charity," Nathan said earnestly. "It's gratitude. You saved my life today, Tanya. Both of you did. I was ready to give up on everything, and you showed me that there are still good people in the world. People worth living for." "We didn't do anything special," Tanya protested. "You did everything special," Nathan said. "You saw a stranger in pain and you helped. You could have walked away. You could have just called the police and let them handle it. But instead you stayed. You cared. You invited me to breakfast. You came to the hospital to check on me." Riley had been listening to this conversation with the serious expression that small children sometimes get when adults are talking about important things. "Nathan," she said suddenly, "do you not have a mommy and daddy?" Nathan's heart clenched. "No, sweetie. My parents died when I was younger." "That's really sad," Riley said, her eyes filling with tears. "Everyone should have a family." "Riley's right," Tanya said softly. "Everyone should have people who care about them." Nathan looked between Tanya and Riley, these two amazing people who had wandered into his life at exactly the moment he needed them most. "I'd like to be part of your family," he said quietly. "If you'll have me." Riley clapped her hands together. "Yes, you can be like my Uncle Nathan." Tanya smiled, but Nathan could still see the worry in her eyes. "Nathan, that's sweet, but—" "Please," Nathan said. "Don't say no yet. Just think about it. I know we just met, but I feel like we were meant to find each other today. And I promise you, I'm not some creepy guy trying to take advantage. I don't want to be alone anymore, and I don't want you to have to struggle alone either." Tanya was quiet for a long moment, looking at her daughter and then back at Nathan. She was clearly torn between her natural caution and her compassionate heart. Finally she spoke. "Okay, we can try being friends. Real friends. But Nathan, I need you to understand something. I don't want your money. I can't be bought. If we're going to be friends, it has to be because we genuinely care about each other, not because you feel guilty or because I need financial help." "I understand," Nathan said. "And Tanya, I do genuinely care about both of you. More than I've cared about anyone in a long time." Riley had been getting restless during this serious conversation, and she suddenly perked up with an important question. "Nathan, when you get out of the hospital, do you want to come to our house for dinner? Mommy makes really good spaghetti." Nathan felt his heart swell with warmth. "I would love that, Riley. More than anything." As the afternoon wore on, Tanya and Riley stayed with Nathan at the hospital. Riley drew him pictures on the back of medical forms, and Tanya told him stories about their life together. Nathan learned that Tanya had been raising Riley alone since she was a baby, that Riley's father had left when he found out Tanya was pregnant, and that they lived in a small one-bedroom apartment across town. He also learned that despite their struggles, Tanya and Riley had built a life full of love and laughter. They had weekly movie nights, they read books together every evening, and they had special traditions for holidays and birthdays. Tanya had created a loving home for her daughter out of pure determination and heart. By the time visiting hours were ending, Nathan knew that his life had been permanently changed. He had found the family he had been searching for without even knowing it. And he was going to do everything in his power to take care of them the way they had already begun taking care of him. As Tanya and Riley prepared to leave, Nathan made a decision. "Tanya," he said, "I want to ask you something, and I need you to really consider it before you answer." "Okay. I want to help you. Not because I pity you, but because I care about you both. I want to make sure Riley has everything she needs, and I want to make sure you don't have to work yourself to death to provide it." Tanya started to shake her head, but Nathan held up his hand. "Let me finish," he said gently. "I know you're independent and strong and I respect that. But everyone needs help sometimes. You helped me today when I needed it most. Please let me help you now." "Nathan," Tanya began. "Think about Riley," Nathan said softly. "Think about what it would mean for her to have security, good schools, opportunities. Think about what it would mean for you to be able to spend time with her instead of working all the time." Tanya looked down at Riley, who was listening intently to every word. "What do you think, baby? Should we let Nathan help us?" Riley nodded emphatically. "Yes, Mommy. Nathan is our friend and friends help each other." Tanya was quiet for a long moment, and Nathan could see the internal struggle on her face. Finally, she looked up at him with tears in her eyes. "Okay," she whispered. "We'll let you help. But Nathan, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me that if we do this, it's because we matter to you as people. Not as a project or a charity case. Promise me that you care about Riley and me for who we are." Nathan reached out and took Tanya's hand. "I promise," he said firmly. "You and Riley matter to me more than anything else in my life right now. And I'm going to spend every day proving that to you." As they left the hospital that evening, Nathan felt something he hadn't experienced in years: excitement about the future. Tomorrow he would be discharged and then he would begin the most important mission of his life. He was going to make sure that Tanya and Riley had everything they deserved and more. And maybe, just maybe, they would continue to save his life a little bit more each day. Nathan was discharged from the hospital the next morning with strict instructions to rest, eat regularly, and follow up with his doctor in a week. But rest was the last thing on his mind. He spent the entire ride home in his luxury car thinking about Tanya and Riley, and by the time he reached his penthouse, he had made several important phone calls. His first call had been to Rebecca, his assistant, asking her to research the best family apartments in safe neighborhoods with good schools. His second call had been to his lawyer, Mr. Thompson, asking about setting up trust funds and educational accounts. His third call had been to his accountant, instructing him to prepare for some significant financial commitments. But first he needed to see where Tanya and Riley lived. He needed to understand their situation completely before he could figure out how best to help them. When Tanya had given him her address the night before, Nathan had assumed it was in one of the working-class neighborhoods across town. But as his driver pulled up to the building, Nathan felt his heart sink. The apartment complex was run down and clearly in an unsafe area. The paint was peeling, several windows were boarded up, and Nathan could see that the playground behind the building was more rust than functional equipment. Nathan climbed the 3 flights of stairs to apartment 3B, his heart heavy as he noticed the dim lighting in the hallways and the smell of mold in the air. When he knocked on the door, he could hear Riley's excited voice calling, "Nathan's here." Tanya opened the door with a smile, but Nathan could see the embarrassment in her eyes as she noticed him taking in their surroundings. The apartment was tiny, with a small living room that doubled as Tanya's bedroom. Nathan could see a couch with blankets and a pillow, clearly where Tanya slept so that Riley could have the single bedroom. But despite the size and the obvious age of the furniture, the apartment was immaculately clean and decorated with love. Riley's artwork covered the refrigerator, there were cheerful curtains on the windows, and the whole space felt warm and inviting. "I know it's not much," Tanya said quietly, "but it's home." "It's perfect," Nathan said, and he meant it. The love in this tiny space was more valuable than anything in his enormous penthouse. "You've made it beautiful." Riley came running to hug Nathan, and he scooped her up, marveling at how natural it felt to hold her. "Nathan, do you want to see my room? I have a picture of a princess on my wall." Nathan spent the next hour getting the full tour of the apartment, admiring Riley's drawings, looking at her small collection of books, and listening to her chatter about her friends at daycare. All the while, he was acutely aware of what Tanya and Riley were going without. Riley's clothes were clean but clearly secondhand. Her toys were few and well-worn. The refrigerator was mostly empty except for basic staples. When Riley went to play in her room, Nathan and Tanya sat on the couch together. Nathan could see the tiredness in Tanya's face, the stress lines around her eyes that came from constantly worrying about making ends meet. "Tanya," Nathan said gently, "I've been thinking about what we talked about yesterday. About letting me help." Tanya nodded. "I've been thinking about it too. I want to be completely honest with you about what I can offer," Nathan continued. "I own a technology company. Well, I'm very wealthy. And I want to use some of that wealth to make sure you and Riley have everything you need." Tanya looked at him carefully. "What exactly does that mean?" "It means I want to find you a better place to live. Somewhere safe with good schools for Riley. It means I want to make sure you don't have to work 2 jobs just to pay rent. It means I want Riley to have opportunities that most kids only dream of." Tanya was quiet for a long moment. "Nathan, that sounds like a lot of money. Why would you do that for us?" Nathan thought about how to explain what Tanya and Riley had done for him, how they had pulled him back from the edge of despair and shown him that life was worth living. "Because you gave me something I thought I had lost forever," he said finally. "You gave me hope. You gave me a reason to want tomorrow to come." "We just talked to you," Tanya said. "Anyone would have done the same thing." Nathan shook his head. "No, Tanya. Most people would have walked past. Most people would have assumed someone else would handle it. But you stopped. You cared. You and Riley saved my life, and now I want to spend the rest of my life making sure you're both happy and safe." Tanya's eyes filled with tears. "Nathan, I'm scared. I've been taking care of Riley by myself for 5 years. I don't know how to let someone else help us." "You don't have to figure it all out at once," Nathan said. "We can take it one step at a time. What's the biggest worry you have right now? What keeps you awake at night?" Tanya laughed, but it was a sound full of stress rather than joy. "Honestly, Riley's daycare. They've been so patient with me, but I'm 3 weeks behind on payments. If I don't catch up by Friday, they're going to have to ask Riley to leave. And if Riley can't go to daycare, I can't work. And if I can't work..." "How much do you owe?" Nathan asked gently. $800, Tanya whispered. "Might as well be 8,000. I just don't have it." Nathan pulled out his phone and called his bank. "Hi, this is Nathan Pierce. I need you to wire $800 immediately to Little Stars Daycare Center." He looked at Tanya. "What's the address?" Tanya stared at him in shock. "Nathan, you can't just..." "Address?" Nathan said firmly but kindly. With tears streaming down her face, Tanya gave him the daycare's information. Nathan completed the call and then turned back to her. "It's done," he said simply. "Riley can stay in daycare." Tanya buried her face in her hands and began to cry. Nathan moved closer and put his arm around her shoulders, letting her lean against him as all the stress and fear she had been carrying for weeks finally poured out. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered against his shoulder. "You don't need to thank me," Nathan said. "This is what family does for each other." Riley came running out of her bedroom, alarmed by the sound of her mother crying. "Mommy, what's wrong? Are you hurt?" Tanya wiped her eyes and pulled Riley onto her lap. "No, baby. These are happy tears. Nathan just helped us with something very important." "What did you help us with, Nathan?" Riley asked, climbing across her mother's lap to snuggle against Nathan's side. "I made sure you can keep going to daycare with all your friends," Nathan said. Riley's face lit up with joy. "Really? I can still play with Emma and Jackson." "Really?" Nathan confirmed. "And Riley, I want to help with other things too. Would you like to live in a bigger place? Maybe somewhere with your own playroom?" Riley's eyes grew wide. "A playroom? Just for me? Just for you?" Nathan said. "With lots of toys and books and maybe even space for a princess dress-up area." "Mommy," Riley said, turning to Tanya with excitement. "Can we live in a place with a playroom?" Tanya looked at Nathan with wonder and gratitude. "Is that really possible?" "Anything is possible," Nathan said. "I've already had my assistant looking at apartments. There are some beautiful family places with excellent schools nearby. Places where Riley can have her own room and you can have your own room, and there's space for all of us to spend time together." "All of us," Tanya repeated softly. "If that's okay," Nathan said, suddenly worried that he had presumed too much. "I mean, I'd like to be part of your daily life. I'd like to take Riley to school sometimes and help with homework and be here for dinner and bedtime stories. But only if you want that too." Tanya looked at Riley, who was nodding enthusiastically, and then back at Nathan. You really want to be part of our family. Even though we're just... You're not just anything, Nathan said firmly. You're the most important people in my world. And yes, I want to be part of your family more than I've ever wanted anything. What would you do in Tanya's situation? Would you trust this stranger who wants to change your entire life? This story shows how sometimes the biggest risks lead to the most beautiful rewards. If you're invested in seeing how this family grows together, please subscribe and let us know in the comments what you think Tanya should do. That afternoon, Nathan took Tanya and Riley to look at apartments. The first one they visited was a spacious 2-bedroom in a safe neighborhood with tree-lined streets and a park across the street. Riley ran from room to room, marveling at how much space there was, while Tanya stood in the kitchen with tears in her eyes. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "But Nathan, I can't possibly afford the rent on a place like this." "You don't need to worry about rent," Nathan said. "I've already spoken with the landlord. If you like it here, it's yours." "For how long?" Tanya asked. "A month. 6 months. For as long as you want to live here," Nathan said. "I've set up an account that will cover all your living expenses. Rent, utilities, groceries, everything. You'll never have to worry about money again." Tanya sank into one of the kitchen chairs. "Nathan, this is too much. I can't let you pay for everything. What will people think? What will you expect in return?" Nathan knelt down in front of her chair so he could look directly into her eyes. "Tanya, I don't care what people think. And I don't expect anything in return except your friendship. I want to take care of you and Riley because I love you both. Not romantic love," he added quickly, seeing her expression. "Family love. The kind of love that wants the best for the people who matter most." Riley came running back into the kitchen. "Mommy, there's a room that would be perfect for all my books. And the big room could fit a really big bed just for you. And Nathan, there's even a room where you could stay when you visit us." Nathan and Tanya looked at each other over Riley's head. "What do you think, Mommy?" Riley continued. "Can we live here? Please." Tanya took a deep breath and looked around the beautiful apartment. Then she looked at Nathan, this man who had appeared in their lives like a guardian angel, ready to give them everything they had ever dreamed of. "Okay," she said finally. "We'll take it. But Nathan, I need to contribute something. I can't just be completely dependent on you." "What if you quit your cleaning job and just keep the grocery store job?" Nathan suggested. "That way you're still working, still contributing, but you'll have more time to spend with Riley. And more time to spend with you," Riley added hopefully. Nathan smiled. "And more time to spend with me." Tanya nodded, feeling like she was stepping into a completely new life. "Okay, let's do it." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Nathan made phone calls to arrange for movers, to have utilities turned on, to stock the apartment with groceries and basic necessities. Tanya gave notice at her cleaning job and arranged to reduce her hours at the grocery store. By evening, they were sitting in their old apartment surrounded by boxes, Riley fast asleep in her mother's lap after the excitement of the day. Nathan and Tanya sat quietly together on the couch, both of them amazed at how much their lives had changed in just 48 hours. "Nathan," Tanya said softly, "I need to ask you something." "Anything. Why is this so important to you? I mean, you could help lots of people. You could donate to charities or foundations. Why us? Why Riley and me specifically?" Nathan was quiet for a moment, thinking about how to put his feelings into words. "Do you remember what it felt like the first time you held Riley?" he asked. "Of course," Tanya said. "Like my whole life suddenly made sense. Like everything I had been through had led to that moment." "That's what it felt like when Riley told me not to jump," Nathan said. "Like my whole life suddenly made sense. Like everything I had been through had led to that moment when I would meet the two of you." Tanya felt her heart skip a beat. "Nathan. I know it sounds crazy," Nathan continued. "We've known each other for 2 days. But Tanya, I've never felt like I belonged anywhere or with anyone until I met you and Riley. You feel like home to me." Tanya looked down at her sleeping daughter and then back at Nathan. "You feel like home to us too," she admitted quietly. Nathan reached over and took her hand. "Then let's build a home together. Not as charity or obligation, but as a family that chose each other." "Okay," Tanya whispered. "Let's build a home." As Nathan left that night, he felt lighter than he had in years. Tomorrow, Tanya and Riley would move into their new apartment, and their life together as a chosen family would really begin. He had never been so excited about the future. Moving day arrived with bright sunshine and perfect October weather, as if the universe itself was celebrating this new chapter in their lives. Nathan had arranged for professional movers, but he insisted on being there to help with every box and piece of furniture. He wanted to be part of this transition, not just the person who made it possible. Riley was beside herself with excitement, running around the new apartment and chattering non-stop about which room would be hers and where all her things would go. She had packed her most precious possessions in a small backpack that she refused to let anyone else carry, her favorite stuffed elephant, 3 books about princesses, and a drawing she had made of her, Nathan, and her mommy standing in front of a big house. "Nathan, look," Riley called out, standing in what would be her bedroom. "This room is bigger than our whole old place." Nathan laughed, lifting Riley up to spin her around. "And it's all yours, princess. We can paint it any color you want." "Pink," Riley said immediately. "Pink with white clouds on the ceiling." "Pink with white clouds it is," Nathan agreed, making a mental note to call painters first thing Monday morning. Tanya stood in the doorway watching them, still hardly able to believe this was real. The apartment was everything Nathan had promised and more. The kitchen had modern appliances and plenty of counter space. The living room was bright and spacious with large windows that let in natural light. Her bedroom was bigger than their entire old apartment, with an attached bathroom that felt like a luxury spa. But the most amazing part wasn't the space or the nice furniture that Nathan had arranged to be delivered. It was the feeling of safety and possibility that filled every room. For the first time in years, Tanya felt like she could breathe freely. "Tanya," Nathan said, setting Riley down and walking over to where Tanya stood. "What do you think? Is it okay?" "It's perfect," Tanya said, her voice thick with emotion. "Nathan, I don't know how to express how grateful I am." "You don't have to express anything," Nathan said gently. "Just enjoy it. Let yourself be happy." As the movers finished bringing in the last boxes, Nathan surprised them by announcing that he had one more surprise. A truck pulled up outside and several delivery men began unloading furniture and boxes. "Nathan, what's all this?" Tanya asked. "Just a few things I thought you might need," Nathan said, but his sheepish smile suggested there was more to it. Riley pressed her face against the window as the delivery men carried in a beautiful wooden bed frame for Tanya, a complete princess bedroom set for Riley, including a canopy bed and matching dresser, and enough toys and books to stock a small store. "Nathan," Tanya said, feeling overwhelmed. "This is too much." "Nothing is too much for my family," Nathan said simply. The afternoon was spent unpacking and setting up their new home. Nathan proved to be surprisingly handy, assembling furniture and hanging pictures while Tanya organized clothes and kitchen items. Riley helped by providing running commentary and testing out every new toy as it was unpacked. By evening, the apartment looked like it had been their home for years. Riley's room was a pink paradise with her new canopy bed made up with princess sheets and her stuffed animals arranged carefully on the pillows. Tanya's room felt like a peaceful retreat with soft lighting and comfortable furniture. "Nathan," Riley said as they sat down to their first dinner in the new apartment, "will you live here with us?" Nathan looked at Tanya carefully. "Well, I have my own place, but I'd like to visit every day if that's okay with your mommy." "Every day," Tanya repeated. "Nathan, you don't have to feel obligated to spend all your time with us. You have your own life, your company to run." "My company can run itself for a while," Nathan said. "And Tanya, there's nowhere I'd rather be than here with you and Riley." As if to prove his point, Nathan pulled out his phone and called his assistant Rebecca. "Rebecca, I need you to clear my calendar for the next 2 weeks. Cancel all non-emergency meetings and handle anything that can't wait." "Nathan," Tanya protested, "you can't just stop working." "I'm not stopping working," Nathan said. "I'm just changing my priorities. The most important job I have right now is helping you and Riley settle into your new life." Riley clapped her hands. "So you can take me to my new school on Monday." "Your new school," Tanya repeated. "Riley, honey, you'll still go to the same daycare." Nathan looked a bit embarrassed. "Actually, I took the liberty of looking into schools in this neighborhood. There's an excellent private kindergarten just 2 blocks away. Riley could start there next week if you want." "Kindergarten," Tanya said. "But Nathan, Riley isn't supposed to start kindergarten until next fall. The school has a pre-K program that transitions into kindergarten," Nathan explained. "It would give Riley a head start, and the class sizes are small so she'd get lots of individual attention." Tanya felt that familiar feeling of being overwhelmed by Nathan's generosity. "Nathan, private school is expensive." "It's handled," Nathan said gently. "Tanya, please stop worrying about money. I promise you, I have more than enough to take care of all of us for the rest of our lives." "What about my friends at daycare?" Riley asked, looking worried for the first time all day. "Well," Nathan said, "maybe we could arrange some playdates. And you'll make new friends at your new school too." Riley considered this carefully. Will the new school have a playground? A beautiful playground, Nathan confirmed. And an art room and a library, and they even have a garden where kids can learn to grow vegetables. Riley's eyes lit up. Can I grow carrots? I love carrots. You can grow all the carrots you want, Nathan said. That night, after Riley was tucked into her new princess bed and had fallen asleep surrounded by her new toys, Nathan and Tanya sat together on the couch in their beautiful new living room. The apartment felt peaceful and safe, filled with the promise of happy years ahead. Nathan, Tanya said quietly, I need to tell you something. Okay. I'm scared, she admitted. This is all so wonderful, but I keep waiting for something to go wrong. I keep thinking that I'm going to wake up and we'll be back in that tiny apartment with no money for Riley's daycare. Nathan shifted closer to her on the couch. Tanya, I understand why you feel that way. You've had to fight for everything you have for so long. But this isn't a dream and it's not temporary. This is your life now. Your real life. How can you be so sure? Tanya asked. What if you get tired of us? What if you decide this was a mistake? Nathan took her hands in his. Tanya, look at me. Do you think I'm the kind of person who makes impulsive decisions about important things? Tanya studied his face, thinking about everything she had learned about Nathan over the past few days. He was thoughtful and careful, the kind of man who built a successful company through planning and dedication. No, she said finally. You're not impulsive. Then trust me when I tell you that this decision is permanent, Nathan said. I want you and Riley in my life forever. Not as some charity project but as my family. Forever is a long time, Tanya said softly. Not long enough, Nathan replied. They sat quietly together for a while, both of them processing the magnitude of the changes in their lives. Finally Tanya spoke again. Nathan, can I ask you about your company? What exactly do you do? We develop software for hospitals, Nathan explained. Programs that help doctors and nurses take better care of patients. It's not exciting but it's important work and it's been very successful. So you really do help people, Tanya said. Even in your regular job. I try to, Nathan said. But helping you and Riley feels more important than anything I've ever done. Can I ask you something else? Anything. What happened to your parents? You mentioned they died when you were young. Nathan was quiet for a moment. Car accident. I was 22 just finishing college. They were driving home from my graduation ceremony when a drunk driver hit them. Tanya felt her heart break for him. Nathan, I'm so sorry. It was a long time ago, Nathan said, but Tanya could hear the pain that was still there. But it's part of why meeting you and Riley means so much to me. I've been alone for 13 years. I'd forgotten what it felt like to have people who cared whether I came home at night. You'll never have to be alone again, Tanya said firmly. Riley and I will always care whether you come home. Nathan smiled, feeling that familiar warmth that came from being around Tanya and Riley. Promise. Promise. Over the next several days their new routine began to take shape. Nathan would arrive each morning in time to have breakfast with them, and he would drive Riley to her new school while Tanya got ready for her part-time job at the grocery store. In the afternoons, Nathan would pick Riley up from school and they would spend time at the park or exploring their new neighborhood until Tanya got home. Riley took to her new school immediately, making friends with her classmates and impressing her teacher with her intelligence and enthusiasm. She would come home each day full of stories about what she had learned and excited to share her new knowledge with Nathan and Tanya. Nathan, did you know that butterflies taste with their feet? Riley announced one afternoon as they walked home from the park. I did not know that, Nathan said seriously. That's very interesting. What else did you learn today? We learned about families, Riley said. Mrs. Peterson asked us to draw pictures of our families, and I drew you and Mommy and me. Nathan felt his heart skip a beat. You drew me in your family picture. Of course, Riley said matter-of-factly. You're part of our family now. That evening Riley proudly showed her family drawing to Tanya. The picture showed 3 stick figures holding hands in front of a house. The tallest figure was labeled Nathan, the middle one Mommy, and the smallest one me. Above the house, Riley had drawn a rainbow and written My Happy Family in careful kindergarten letters. Tanya felt tears prick her eyes as she looked at the drawing. It's beautiful, baby. Can we put it on the refrigerator? Riley asked. Of course we can, Tanya said, hanging the drawing in the place of honor. Nathan stared at the picture for a long time that evening after Riley had gone to bed. He had never seen himself drawn as part of anyone's family before, and the simple crayon drawing meant more to him than any expensive artwork ever could. She really sees me as her family, he said wonderfully. We both do, Tanya said quietly. Nathan, you've become such an important part of our lives. I can't imagine our days without you anymore. Good, Nathan said, pulling her close. Because I'm not going anywhere. As their second week in the apartment came to an end, Nathan realized that he had never been happier. He woke up each morning excited to see Tanya and Riley, and he went to sleep each night grateful for another day with his chosen family. But more than that, he could see how much good his help was doing. Tanya was less stressed and tired. She smiled more, laughed more, and had time to really enjoy Riley's childhood instead of constantly worrying about bills and rent. Riley was thriving in her new school and had the confidence that came from knowing she was secure and loved. Nathan had spent years trying to find meaning and purpose in his life, and he had finally found it in the most unexpected place. In a tiny apartment with a struggling single mother and her 5-year-old daughter who had simply cared enough to tell a stranger not to jump. As he lay in his own bed in his penthouse that night, Nathan made a decision. It was time to make their arrangement even more permanent. It was time to show Tanya and Riley just how committed he was to their future together. Tomorrow he would ask them about taking the next big step in their life as a family. 3 weeks into their new life, Nathan found himself more integrated into Tanya and Riley's daily routine than he had ever imagined possible. He had a key to their apartment, his own coffee mug in their kitchen, and a designated spot on the couch for their nightly movie time. For the first time in his adult life, he understood what it meant to belong somewhere. But it was more than just the practical aspects of their shared life that made Nathan feel like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. It was the way Riley ran to hug him every morning when he arrived for breakfast. It was the way Tanya consulted him on decisions both big and small, valuing his opinion the way family members do. It was the way all three of them had fallen into comfortable patterns of conversation and affection. This particular Saturday morning found Nathan in the kitchen making pancakes while Riley sat at the counter providing running commentary and Tanya got dressed for her reduced hours at the grocery store. Nathan, you have to flip that one, Riley instructed seriously. I can see bubbles. You're absolutely right, Nathan said, carefully flipping the pancake. You're getting very good at this pancake supervision job. When I grow up, I'm going to make pancakes for my kids, Riley announced. And you can teach them how to flip them too. Nathan felt his heart constrict with love and longing. The idea of being part of Riley's life for years to come, maybe even helping to raise her own children someday, filled him with a happiness he couldn't have imagined a month ago. Nathan, Riley continued, can I ask you something? Of course, sweetheart. Were you very sad before you met us? Nathan paused in his pancake making, surprised by the depth of the question. Riley had such an intuitive understanding of emotions for a 5-year-old. Yes, he said honestly. I was very sad. Because you didn't have a family. That's right. Riley nodded thoughtfully. I was sad before too. Before you came to live with us. Not all the time, but sometimes at night when Mommy would fall asleep on the couch because she was so tired. Nathan felt a familiar pang of gratitude mixed with protectiveness. But you're not sad like that anymore. Nope, Riley said cheerfully. Because now Mommy doesn't have to work so hard and she laughs more and we have you to take care of us. Tanya appeared in the kitchen just then, dressed for work but moving more slowly than usual. Nathan immediately noticed that she looked pale and tired. Good morning, beautiful, Nathan said, setting a plate of pancakes in front of her. How are you feeling? I'm okay, Tanya said, but Nathan could tell she wasn't entirely truthful. Just a little tired. Mommy, you look sick, Riley observed with the blunt honesty of childhood. I'm not sick, baby, Tanya said, ruffling Riley's hair. Just need some coffee. Nathan studied Tanya's face carefully. Maybe you should call in sick today. Stay home and rest. I can't do that, Tanya protested. I've only been working part-time for 2 weeks. I can't start calling in sick already. Tanya, Nathan said gently, you don't have to push yourself so hard anymore. If you're not feeling well, you should rest. Nathan's right, Mommy, Riley chimed in. You should stay home and we can take care of you. Tanya looked between Nathan and Riley, seeing the genuine concern in both their faces. The old Tanya would have insisted on going to work no matter how she felt, unable to afford missing even a few hours of pay. But the new reality of their life was still taking some getting used to. I suppose I could call in, she said hesitantly. Good, Nathan said firmly. I'll call Rebecca and tell her I'm working from home today. That way I can keep an eye on you and Riley can help nurse you back to health. I'm a very good nurse, Riley announced. I can bring you soup and put cold things on your forehead. Despite feeling unwell, Tanya smiled at her daughter's enthusiasm. Okay, Dr. Riley. You can be in charge of taking care of me today. Nathan called both Rebecca and the grocery store while Tanya settled on the couch with a blanket and a cup of tea. Riley took her nursing duties very seriously, bringing her mother pillows and her favorite stuffed animal, and checking her temperature with a toy thermometer from her Dr. Play kit. Nathan, Riley said seriously, I think Mommy needs medicine. What kind of medicine do you think? Nathan asked, playing along. The kind that makes you feel better, Riley said. And maybe some ice cream later, because ice cream always makes me feel better when I'm sad. I think you might be right about the ice cream, Nathan said. But first, let's make sure Mommy gets some rest. As the morning progressed, Nathan found himself taking on a caretaker role that felt completely natural. He made Tanya soup for lunch, kept Riley entertained with quiet activities so Tanya could nap, and handled several business calls from his laptop while keeping one eye on his makeshift family. Around midday, as Tanya slept on the couch and Riley played quietly with her dolls, Nathan received a phone call that would change the trajectory of their lives. Mr. Pierce, came Rebecca's voice, I have someone on the line who says she's your wife. She's demanding to speak with you immediately. Nathan felt his blood run cold. My ex-wife, he corrected. What does Susan want? She says it's urgent. Something about legal matters. Nathan looked at Tanya sleeping peacefully on the couch and Riley playing contentedly on the floor. The last thing he wanted was for Susan to intrude on the happiness they had built together. Tell her I'll call her back later, Nathan said. Sir, she says she's not going to hang up until she speaks with you. She seems quite determined. Nathan sighed. Susan had always been persistent when she wanted something, and he knew she wouldn't give up easily. Put her through, but make it quick. Nathan, Susan's voice was as cold and demanding as he remembered. We need to talk. Hello, Susan. What do you want? I want to meet. Today. There are things we need to discuss. I can't think of anything we need to discuss, Nathan said, keeping his voice low so he wouldn't wake Tanya. Oh, I think you can, Susan said with a tone that Nathan recognized as trouble. I've been hearing very interesting things about your new, domestic situation. Nathan felt his stomach drop. What are you talking about? I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. Meet me at the Riverside Hotel bar at 4 o'clock, or I'll be forced to discuss these matters in a more public forum. The line went dead and Nathan stared at his phone with a growing sense of dread. Susan's call could only mean one thing. She had somehow learned about Tanya and Riley, and she was planning to use that information to cause problems. Nathan looked at Tanya and Riley, his chosen family who had saved his life and filled his heart with love, and he made a promise to himself. Whatever Susan wanted, whatever threats she was planning to make, he would not let her hurt the two people who meant everything to him. Nathan, Riley said looking up from her dolls, is something wrong? You look worried. Nathan forced a smile and knelt down next to Riley. Nothing's wrong, sweetheart. Just some boring business stuff. Are you sure? Riley asked, studying his face with the perceptive eyes that sometimes made her seem much older than 5. I'm sure, Nathan said, pulling Riley close for a hug. How's Mommy feeling? Better, I think, Riley said. She's not making those little coughing sounds anymore. Nathan looked over at Tanya, who was indeed sleeping more peacefully. Good. Dr. Riley's medicine must be working. Nathan, Riley said suddenly, if something bad happened you wouldn't leave us, would you? The question hit Nathan like a physical blow. Riley, sweetheart, why would you ask that? Because my daddy left when I was a baby and sometimes kids at school, their daddies leave too. I just want to make sure you won't leave. Nathan felt his eyes fill with tears. He gathered Riley into his arms and held her tight. Riley, I promise you I will never leave you and Mommy. Never. You are stuck with me forever and ever. Forever and ever, Riley repeated, snuggling against Nathan's chest. Forever and ever, Nathan confirmed. But even as he made this promise to Riley, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that Susan's call was going to complicate their lives in ways he couldn't yet imagine. He had built something beautiful with Tanya and Riley, something precious and fragile and worth protecting at all costs. Whatever Susan wanted, whatever game she was trying to play, Nathan would not let her destroy the family he had finally found. That afternoon, Nathan reluctantly left Tanya and Riley to meet with Susan. He told Tanya that he had an emergency business meeting, not wanting to worry her while she was still recovering from her cold. He asked Mrs. Johnson from down the hall to check on them while he was gone, a request that Tanya accepted without question since Nathan had become such an integral part of their support system. The Riverside Hotel bar was exactly the kind of place Susan would choose for this meeting. Expensive, pretentious, and designed to make people feel uncomfortable. Nathan spotted her immediately, sitting at a corner table with a martini already in front of her. Susan looked exactly the same as she had when their marriage had ended 2 years ago. Perfectly styled blonde hair, designer clothes, and an expression of cold calculation. She had been beautiful once, Nathan remembered, but her beauty had always been overshadowed by her greed and manipulation. "Hello, Nathan," Susan said as he approached the table. "You look different." "Hello, Susan," Nathan replied, taking the seat across from her but not bothering with pleasantries. "What do you want?" "Straight to the point," Susan said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I always did appreciate that about you." "Very well. I want to talk about your new living situation." "My living situation is none of your business." "Oh, but I think it is," Susan said, taking a sip of her martini. "You see, Nathan, we may be divorced, but we still have financial entanglements. And when you start spending significant amounts of money on, let's call them outside interests, it affects our mutual investments." "We don't have mutual investments," Nathan said coldly. "The charity foundation," Susan reminded him. "The one we established together during our marriage. I still have a stake in that, which means I have a right to know how you're spending the money that feeds into it." Nathan felt his temper rising. The foundation had been one of the few good things to come out of his marriage to Susan, and she had never cared about it until now. "The foundation's finances are completely separate from any personal spending I do." "Are they?" Susan asked. "Because I've done some research, Nathan. And it seems like you've been very generous with a certain single mother and her child. New apartment, private school tuition, furniture, clothes. It adds up to quite a lot of money." Nathan's blood ran cold. "You've been investigating Tanya and Riley." "I've been protecting my interests," Susan corrected. "And Nathan, I have to say, I'm concerned about this situation. A wealthy man, a struggling woman with a child. It has all the hallmarks of a very messy scandal." "There's no scandal," Nathan said through gritted teeth. "Tanya and Riley are important to me. They're my family." "Your family," Susan repeated with a laugh. "Nathan, you've known this woman for less than a month. She's obviously using you for your money." "She's not using me for anything," Nathan said angrily. "She didn't even want my help at first. I had to convince her to accept it." "Of course she played hard to get," Susan said dismissively. "That's manipulation 101. Make the mark feel like it was his idea." Nathan stood up abruptly. "This conversation is over." "Sit down, Nathan," Susan said sharply. "We're not finished." "Yes, we are. If you walk away from this table, I'll be forced to take this matter public," Susan said, her voice turning threatening. "I'll make sure everyone knows about your charitable activities. Your business partners, your employees, the media. I wonder how they'll react to learning that the great Nathan Pierce is being taken advantage of by a gold digger with a sob story." Nathan slowly sat back down, fury radiating from every line of his body. "What do you want, Susan?" "I want you to end this ridiculous situation," Susan said. "Send the woman and her child away. Give them a generous goodbye payment and move on with your life." "Never." "Then I want compensation for the potential damage this could do to our shared interests," Susan continued. $2 million should cover it." Nathan stared at his ex-wife in disbelief. "You want me to pay you $2 million to leave Tanya and Riley alone?" "I want you to pay me $2 million to keep this situation from becoming a very public and very embarrassing scandal," Susan corrected. Nathan was quiet for a long moment, thinking about his options. He could pay Susan the money. $2 million was a significant amount, but not enough to hurt him financially. It would buy Susan's silence and protect Tanya and Riley from public scrutiny. But paying would also mean giving in to Susan's blackmail, and Nathan knew that bullies like Susan never stopped at just one payment. If he gave her money now, she would be back for more later. "I need time to think about this," Nathan said finally. "You have 24 hours, Susan said. "After that, I start making phone calls." Nathan left the hotel feeling like his perfect world was starting to crack around the edges. For the first time since meeting Tanya and Riley, he was faced with a problem that couldn't be solved simply by writing a check or making arrangements. This required strategy and careful thought. When he returned to the apartment, he found Tanya feeling much better and Riley excited to show him a get-well card she had made for her mother. The normalcy and love of their evening routine was exactly what Nathan needed after his confrontation with Susan. But as he helped Riley with her bedtime story and kissed them both goodnight, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that their peaceful life was about to be tested in ways they had never imagined. Tomorrow he would have to figure out how to protect the family he loved from the woman who had already destroyed his life once before. Can you imagine having to choose between the family you love and protecting them from public scrutiny? Nathan's past is about to collide with his present in ways that could destroy everything. Don't miss what happens next. Subscribe now and tell us in the comments, should Nathan pay Susan to leave them alone, or should he fight back? Nathan spent a sleepless night weighing his options. By morning, he had made a decision that would change not only his own life, but also Tanya and Riley's in ways he was only beginning to understand. Instead of giving in to Susan's blackmail or trying to fight her threats alone, he was going to do something that would make their little family stronger and more permanent than ever. He arrived at the apartment that morning with coffee and Riley's favorite muffins, but also with a briefcase full of legal documents and a proposal that would bind their lives together in an official capacity. "Good morning, my favorite girls," Nathan said as Riley ran to hug him and Tanya smiled from the kitchen. "Nathan, you're here early today," Tanya observed. "And you look like you didn't sleep well." Nathan had never been good at hiding his emotions, and Tanya had become expert at reading his moods over the past month. "I have something important to discuss with both of you," he said. "Something that could change our future together." Riley looked up from her muffin with interest. "Is it good news or bad news?" "I think it's very good news," Nathan said, settling down at the kitchen table. "But it's also big news, so we need to talk about it carefully." Tanya poured herself a cup of coffee and sat down across from Nathan. She could see the seriousness in his expression and felt a familiar flutter of anxiety. "Nathan, what's going on?" Nathan opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder of documents. "Tanya, I want to offer you a job." "A job?" Tanya repeated, surprised. "Nathan, I already have a job." "I mean a real job," Nathan said. "A career. Something that would use your intelligence and your heart, and something that would pay you enough to be completely independent." Tanya felt her pulse quicken. "What kind of job?" "I want you to run my charitable foundation," Nathan said. "The Pierce Foundation gives away millions of dollars every year to causes that help families and children. But it's been run by a board of directors who don't really understand what it's like to need help." Nathan spread several documents on the table, showing Tanya the foundation's mission statement and financial reports. "I want someone who understands what it feels like to struggle, someone who knows how to identify families who really need assistance. I want someone with a good heart who won't just write checks, but who will make sure the money is actually changing lives." Tanya stared at the papers in front of her, trying to process what Nathan was suggesting. "Nathan, I don't have any experience running a foundation. I don't have a college degree or business training." "You have something more valuable than any degree," Nathan said firmly. "You have wisdom that comes from real experience. You know what it's like to worry about rent and daycare payments and whether you can afford to take your child to the doctor. You know what kinds of help actually matter." "But Nathan," Tanya protested, "this is a huge responsibility. What if I make mistakes? What if I don't know how to handle the legal and financial aspects?" "That's what lawyers and accountants are for," Nathan said with a smile. "Tanya, I'm not asking you to become a financial expert overnight. I'm asking you to be the heart and conscience of the foundation. I'll hire the best support staff in the world to handle the technical details." Riley had been listening to this conversation with growing excitement. "Mommy, does this mean you would help other kids like Nathan helped me?" "That's exactly what it means, sweetheart," Nathan said. "Mommy would help make sure other children have safe places to live and good schools to go to." Tanya felt tears welling up in her eyes as she began to understand the full scope of what Nathan was offering. "Nathan, this isn't just about giving me a job, is it?" Nathan shook his head. "No, it's not. Tanya, running the foundation would mean you'd have your own income, your own professional identity. You'd never have to depend on anyone else for financial security again. And," Nathan continued, his voice becoming more serious, "it would also mean that our relationship becomes professional as well as personal. You'd be my business partner, not just someone I'm helping out of kindness." Tanya studied Nathan's face, trying to understand why this distinction was so important to him. "Nathan, what aren't you telling me?" Nathan took a deep breath. He had planned to tell Tanya and Riley about Susan's threats eventually, but he had hoped to wait until after they had settled into their new arrangement. Now he realized that honesty was the only way forward. "There's something I need to tell you about my ex-wife," Nathan said quietly. Over the next 20 minutes, Nathan explained about Susan's call, her threats to go public with their relationship, and her demand for money to keep quiet. He watched Tanya's expression change from confusion to understanding to anger. "She wants you to pay her to leave us alone," Tanya said when Nathan finished his explanation. "That's what she thinks she wants," Nathan said. "But I have a better idea." Nathan pulled out another set of documents. "If you accept the position as executive director of the Pierce Foundation, You'll be a legitimate business associate with a professional reason for being in my life. Susan can't claim you're taking advantage of me if you're actually working for a salary. And, Nathan continued, the foundation has been looking for a new direction anyway. Having someone like you in charge would actually be the best thing that could happen to it. Tanya looked at the job description and salary information that Nathan had prepared. The annual salary was more money than she had made in the past 3 years combined. Nathan, she said slowly, this salary is incredibly generous. It's more than I could make anywhere else. It's exactly what the position is worth, Nathan said. Tanya, the Pierce Foundation gives away $15 million every year. The executive director's salary should reflect that level of responsibility. Riley, who had been remarkably patient during this adult conversation, finally spoke up. Mommy, if you take this job, does that mean we can help lots of kids? Yes, baby, Tanya said, her voice thick with emotion. We could help lots and lots of kids. Then I think you should say yes, Riley said decisively. Tanya laughed despite the tears streaming down her face. You think so? I think Nathan is very smart, and if he thinks you would be good at this job, then you probably would be, Riley said with 5-year-old logic. Tanya looked at Nathan, this amazing man who had turned their lives upside down in the most wonderful way. Nathan, are you sure about this? Running a foundation is a big responsibility. What if I mess it up? You won't mess it up, Nathan said confidently. And even if you made mistakes, which everyone does when they're learning something new, you'd learn from them and get better. Besides, Nathan added with a smile, I'll be right there to help you. We'd be partners in this. Partners? Tanya repeated. Full partners, Nathan confirmed. Equal voices in how the foundation operates and what causes we support. Tanya took a deep breath and looked at the documents again. The opportunity Nathan was offering her was beyond anything she had ever dreamed of. A chance to have a meaningful career, to make a real difference in other people's lives, and to be financially independent while doing it. But more than that, it was a chance to build something lasting with Nathan. Not just a personal relationship based on his generosity, but a professional partnership based on shared values and goals. Okay, Tanya said finally. I accept. Nathan's face broke into the biggest smile Tanya had ever seen. Really? Really, Tanya confirmed. But Nathan, I have some conditions. Name them. First, I want to start small. Maybe pick 1 or 2 projects to focus on initially so I can learn how everything works without getting overwhelmed. Absolutely, Nathan agreed. Second, I want to visit every family or organization we help personally. I don't want to just write checks from behind a desk. I want to make sure our help is actually making a difference. I love that idea, Nathan said. Third, Tanya continued, I want Riley to be part of this when it's appropriate. I want her to understand the importance of helping others, and I want her to see that her mommy has a job that matters. Riley would be the foundation's youngest advisor, Nathan said with a grin. And finally, Tanya said, I want you to promise me that if I'm not good at this, if I can't handle the responsibility, you'll tell me honestly. Nathan reached across the table and took Tanya's hands in his. Tanya, I promise you that you're going to be amazing at this. But if you ever have doubts or concerns, we'll work through them together. Riley jumped up from her chair and threw her arms around both Nathan and her mother. This is the best news ever. Mommy's going to have the most important job in the world. Well, maybe not the most important, Tanya said, laughing and crying at the same time. Yes, it is, Riley insisted. Helping people is the most important job there is. Nathan felt his heart swell with pride and love for both of them. Riley's innate understanding of compassion and service, combined with Tanya's intelligence and experience, would make the Pierce Foundation something special. Over the next several hours, Nathan walked Tanya through the foundation's current operations, introduced her to the staff via video calls, and began making plans for her transition into the role. Tanya asked thoughtful questions and offered insights that impressed everyone she met. Nathan, said Rebecca during one of the calls, I think you've found exactly the right person for this position. By evening, the paperwork was complete and Tanya was officially the executive director of the Pierce Foundation. Nathan had also arranged for her to start with a generous benefits package and a company car, ensuring that she had everything she needed to be successful in her new role. I can't believe this is real, Tanya said as they sat on the couch that night, Riley asleep between them after an exciting day of helping Mommy with her new job. It's real, Nathan assured her. And Tanya, there's something else I want to tell you. What? Susan can make all the threats she wants now, Nathan said. You're not some woman I'm supporting out of charity. You're a respected professional with your own career and income. If she tries to cause problems, it will just make her look petty and vindictive. Tanya nodded, understanding the full implications of what Nathan had done. You didn't just give me a job, did you? You gave me armor. I gave you independence, Nathan corrected. The armor is just a bonus. That night, as Nathan walked back to his own apartment, he felt lighter than he had since Susan's phone call. He had found a way to protect Tanya and Riley while also creating something meaningful and lasting for all three of them. Tomorrow, Tanya would begin her new career as a foundation executive. Susan could make all the threats she wanted, but she no longer had any power over their happiness. Nathan had learned something important in the process. The best way to protect the people you love isn't to shield them from challenges, but to give them the tools and support they need to face those challenges successfully. As he drifted off to sleep that night, Nathan smiled thinking about the future. He and Tanya were partners now in every sense of the word. And he couldn't wait to see what they would build together. 6 weeks into Tanya's new role as executive director of the Pierce Foundation, their lives had settled into a rhythm that felt more natural and permanent than anything Nathan had ever experienced. Tanya had proven herself to be not just capable, but exceptional at her job. Her combination of empathy, intelligence, and real-world experience had already transformed how the foundation operated. Instead of simply writing checks to establish charities, they were now seeking out families and individuals who needed direct assistance. Tanya had implemented a system where every request for help was personally reviewed, and whenever possible, she and Nathan would visit the families themselves to understand their situations. This particular Thursday morning found them in the foundation's new offices, a warm and welcoming space that Tanya had insisted on decorating with artwork from the children they had helped. Nathan sat at the conference table reviewing grant applications while Tanya worked at her desk, occasionally asking his opinion on various requests. Nathan, look at this, Tanya said, holding up a letter. It's from Maria Santos, the single mom we helped last month. She says her daughter just made honor roll for the first time. Nathan smiled, remembering the family they had visited. Maria had been struggling to keep her 3 children fed and housed while working 2 minimum wage jobs. The foundation had provided assistance with rent and utilities, and had also arranged for tutoring help for her oldest daughter. That's wonderful, Nathan said. It's amazing how much difference a little stability can make in a child's academic performance. It makes me think of Riley, Tanya said softly. How much better she's doing now that she doesn't have to worry about whether we'll have enough food or whether we'll have to move again. Nathan looked at Tanya, beautiful and confident in her professional role, and felt the familiar surge of love and pride that had been growing stronger every day. Speaking of Riley, she asked me yesterday if I would come to her school's parent-teacher conference next week. Tanya looked up from her paperwork. She asked you to come to her conference. She said she wanted both her parents there, Nathan said carefully. I told her I'd have to check with you first. Tanya felt her heart skip a beat. She called you one of her parents. She's been doing that more and more lately, Nathan said. Yesterday she told Mrs. Johnson that her daddy was taking her to the park. And last weekend at the grocery store, she introduced me to her friend's mother as her dad. Tanya was quiet for a moment, processing this information. She had noticed Riley referring to Nathan as family more frequently, but she hadn't realized how naturally the child had begun to see him as a father figure. How does that make you feel? Tanya asked softly. Nathan set down the papers he was reviewing and looked directly at her. It makes me feel like the luckiest man in the world, he said honestly. Tanya, I love Riley like she's my own daughter. If she wants to call me her dad, I would be honored. And what about me? Tanya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. How do you feel about me? Nathan's breath caught in his throat. This was the conversation he had been both hoping for and dreading for weeks. His feelings for Tanya had evolved far beyond friendship or even family affection. He was completely, deeply in love with her, but he had been afraid to say anything that might jeopardize the beautiful life they had built together. Tanya, Nathan said, standing up and walking to her desk. You and Riley are the most important people in my life. You're my family in every way that matters. But Nathan, Tanya pressed, is that all we are to you? Family. Nathan knelt down next to Tanya's chair so he could look directly into her eyes. No, he said quietly. That's not all you are to me. Tanya felt her heart start to race. Nathan. I'm in love with you, Nathan said, the words coming out in a rush. I've been in love with you for weeks, but I didn't want to complicate things. I didn't want to risk losing what we have. Tanya felt tears spring to her eyes. You're in love with me. Completely, Nathan said. I love your strength and your kindness. I love the way you care for Riley and the way you've thrown yourself into helping other families. I love your laugh and your determination and the way you make every day better just by being in it. Nathan, Tanya said, reaching out to touch his face. I love you too. Nathan felt like his heart might burst with joy. You do. I have for weeks, Tanya admitted. But I was scared to say anything. I kept thinking that maybe you just felt obligated to take care of us, or maybe you were still processing your feelings about your ex-wife. Susan means nothing to me, Nathan said firmly. She never did, not really. What I feel for you is completely different from anything I've ever experienced. Tanya leaned forward and kissed him softly. It was their first kiss, gentle and sweet and full of all the love they had been holding back. So what does this mean? Tanya asked when they broke apart. Where do we go from here? Before Nathan could answer, the office door burst open and Riley came running in, followed by Mrs. Johnson, who was apologizing for the intrusion. Mommy, Nathan, Riley called out excitedly. School got out early because of the fire drill, and Mrs. Johnson said I could come visit your office. Nathan and Tanya quickly moved apart, both of them flushed and smiling. Mrs. Johnson took one look at their faces and grinned knowingly. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important, Mrs. Johnson said with a wink. Not at all, Tanya said, though her cheeks were still pink. We were just discussing foundation business. Riley ran to hug both Nathan and Tanya, completely oblivious to the romantic tension in the room. Can you show me around your office? I want to see where you help all the families. For the next hour, Nathan and Tanya gave Riley the full tour of the foundation offices, explaining their work in terms she could understand. Riley was fascinated by the files of families they were helping and asked thoughtful questions about why some people needed assistance and how they decided who to help. So you're like fairy godparents, Riley concluded after hearing about several of their success stories. I suppose we are, Tanya said with a laugh. Though we can't make pumpkins into carriages. But you can make sad families happy, Riley said seriously. That's even better than magic. As they prepared to leave the office that evening, Riley made an announcement that took both adults by surprise. I think you and Mommy should get married, she told Nathan matter-of-factly as they walked to the car. Nathan nearly tripped over his own feet. Riley, sweetheart, that's a very big decision. But you love each other, Riley said with 5-year-old logic. I can tell. And we're already like a family anyway. If you got married, it would just make it official. Tanya felt her face burning with embarrassment. Riley, honey, marriage is complicated. No, it's not, Riley said confidently. People who love each other get married so they can be together forever. And I want us to be together forever. Nathan looked at Tanya over Riley's head, and they shared a moment of perfect understanding. Riley had articulated exactly what both of them were feeling but had been afraid to say out loud. Riley, Nathan said gently, if I did marry your mommy, that would make me your stepfather. Is that something you would want? I would want that more than anything in the whole world, Riley said, throwing her arms around Nathan's waist. Then I could call you Daddy all the time, not just sometimes. That evening, after Riley had gone to bed, Nathan and Tanya sat on the couch together, finally able to continue the conversation that had been interrupted by their enthusiastic 5-year-old. She's not wrong, you know, Nathan said, his arm around Tanya as she snuggled against his side. About what? About us getting married, Nathan said softly. I know it might seem fast, but Tanya, I can't imagine my life without you and Riley. I want to make it official. Tanya lifted her head to look at him. Nathan, are you proposing to me? Not yet, Nathan said with a smile. When I propose, it's going to be special. Romantic. Worthy of the amazing woman you are. And worthy of Riley too, Tanya added. Definitely worthy of Riley, Nathan agreed. She deserves a proposal story she can be proud of. They spent the rest of the evening talking about their future, making plans and sharing dreams. They talked about having more children someday, about traveling as a family, about growing old together. They talked about the foundation and how they wanted to expand their work to help even more families. Nathan, Tanya said as they were getting ready to say goodnight, I have one concern about us getting married. What's that? What if people think I'm only marrying you for your money? Tanya said quietly. What if they think I'm just a gold digger who took advantage of a vulnerable moment in your life? Nathan took Tanya's face in his hands. Tanya, anyone who knows us can see that what we have is real. And anyone who doesn't know us doesn't matter. Your ex-wife will definitely have opinions, Tanya pointed out. Susan has already shown her true colors, Nathan said. If she tries to cause trouble for us, she'll just be proving that she's exactly the kind of person we don't want in our lives. Are you sure you're ready for this? Tanya asked. For marriage, for being Riley's father, for all the complications that come with instant family. Nathan kissed her softly. Tanya, I've never been more ready for anything in my life. You and Riley aren't complications. You're the solution to every problem I didn't know I had. As Nathan walked back to his own apartment that night, he was already making plans. He knew exactly how he wanted to propose to Tanya, and he knew exactly where he wanted to do it. Their love story had begun on the bridge, and that's where he wanted to start their official journey toward marriage. But first he needed to pick out a ring. And he needed to have a very important conversation with Riley about becoming his daughter in every legal sense of the word. Nathan smiled to himself as he thought about their future. In just a few months, he had gone from having no family at all to preparing to marry the love of his life and adopt the little girl who had saved his life with 4 simple words. Tomorrow he would start planning the most important proposal of his life. The proposal plans were coming together beautifully. Nathan had spent the past week working with a jewelry designer to create a custom engagement ring that incorporated Riley's birthstone alongside a stunning diamond. He had also been secretly coordinating with the city to arrange for the bridge where they first met to be decorated with lights for the special evening. Everything was perfect until Susan decided to make her move. Nathan was in his office at the foundation, reviewing the final details for a family assistance program, when Rebecca buzzed him on the intercom. Mr. Pierce, there's a woman here to see you. She says she's Susan Pierce and that it's urgent. Nathan felt his blood run cold. Susan had been quiet for weeks since his refusal to pay her blackmail money, and he had begun to hope that she had decided to move on. Obviously he had been wrong. Send her in, Nathan said, steeling himself for whatever Susan had planned. Susan swept into his office as if she owned it, looking around with obvious disdain at the warm, family-friendly decor that Tanya had chosen. She was dressed in an expensive black suit that probably cost more than most people made in a month, and her expression was cold and calculating. Hello, Nathan, Susan said, settling into the chair across from his desk without being invited. Lovely office. Very homey. Susan, Nathan said evenly. What do you want? Oh, I think you know what I want, Susan said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I want the $2 million we discussed, plus interest for the delay. I told you I wasn't going to pay you, Nathan said. Yes, you did tell me that, Susan agreed. But Nathan, I don't think you fully understood the seriousness of my position. Susan opened her purse and pulled out a tablet, which she placed on Nathan's desk. The screen showed a news article draft with the headline, Tech Billionaire's Suicide Attempt Covered Up While He Plays House with Single Mother. Nathan felt his stomach drop as he scanned the article. It contained details about his hospitalization, his relationship with Tanya and Riley, and even information about Riley's school and their apartment address. Where did you get this information? Nathan demanded. I have friends in many places, Susan said smugly. Journalists who owe me favors, private investigators who are very good at their jobs, hospital workers who are willing to share information for the right price. You can't publish this, Nathan said. It's an invasion of privacy, and half of it is speculation. Oh, I can publish it, Susan said. And I will, unless you transfer $2.5 million to my account by 5 o'clock today. $2.5 million, Nathan repeated. I thought you wanted $2 million. That was last month's price, Susan said. Inflation, you understand. Plus, the story has gotten more interesting since then. Susan tapped the tablet screen, bringing up another document. Did you know that your little girlfriend has been making some very expensive purchases lately? Private school tuition, designer clothes for her daughter, a new car. It's almost like she's taking advantage of your generosity. Those aren't expensive purchases, Nathan said angrily. They're necessities for a child and basic transportation. The public won't see it that way, Susan said. Especially when they learn that she's also drawing a very generous salary from your foundation for a job she's completely unqualified for. Nathan felt his temper flare. Tanya is completely qualified for her position, and she's doing excellent work. A single mother with no college degree running a $15 million foundation, Susan said with a laugh. Nathan, even you have to admit that looks suspicious. What looks suspicious is a bitter ex-wife trying to destroy someone's life because she's not getting paid to keep quiet, Nathan shot back. Susan's smile faltered for just a moment, but then she recovered her composure. Be that as it may, Nathan, this story will be published unless I receive payment today. And I should mention the article also includes some very interesting photographs. She tapped the tablet again, bringing up photos that made Nathan's blood run cold. There were pictures of him, Tanya, and Riley at the park. Pictures of them at Riley's school. Pictures taken through the window of their apartment. You've been stalking them, Nathan said, his voice dangerous. I've been documenting the situation, Susan corrected. And Nathan, these photos show a level of intimacy that suggests this relationship is about much more than charity. Nathan stared at the photos, horrified that Susan had been invading their privacy for weeks without them knowing. But more than that, he was terrified about what this would do to Tanya and Riley if it became public. Susan, Nathan said carefully, what you're doing is illegal. Stalking, invasion of privacy, blackmail. You could go to prison for this. Only if someone reports me, Susan said with a shrug. And who's going to do that? The man who's afraid of people finding out about his suicide attempt and his questionable relationship with a woman young enough to be his daughter. Tanya is not young enough to be my daughter, Nathan said through gritted teeth. She's 28, Nathan. You're 35. And she has a 5-year-old child. Do the math. Nathan realized that Susan had done her homework thoroughly. She knew ages, dates, financial information, and personal details that she had no right to know. What exactly do you want from me? Nathan asked. I want you to pay me the money and end this charade, Susan said. Send the woman and her child away with a generous settlement, and return to your real life. This is my real life, Nathan said firmly. No, Nathan, this is a midlife crisis, Susan said dismissively. You had a moment of weakness and this woman took advantage of it. But it's not too late to fix the situation. Nathan looked at the tablet screen, at the photos of his family, at the article that would destroy their privacy and peace. He thought about Riley, innocent and loving, who would be exposed to public scrutiny and judgment through no fault of her own. He thought about Tanya, who had worked so hard to build a respectable life and career, having it all dismissed as gold digging. I need time to think about this, Nathan said finally. You have until 5 o'clock, Susan repeated. After that, the story goes live on 3 major news websites simultaneously. After Susan left, Nathan sat in his office staring at the photos she had shown him. The invasion of privacy was bad enough, but what really bothered him was how normal and loving their family looked in the pictures. Anyone looking at those photos would see a man, woman, and child who clearly cared about each other. But Nathan knew that Susan was right about one thing. The public wouldn't see it that way. They would see a rich man having a midlife crisis, a poor woman taking advantage, and a child caught in the middle. The story would be sensationalized and twisted until their beautiful love story became tabloid fodder. Nathan's phone buzzed with a text from Tanya. How's your day going? Riley wants to know if you can come for dinner tonight. She's making her famous mac and cheese. The normalcy of the text message, the simple domesticity of it, made Nathan's heart ache. How could he tell Tanya that their private life was about to become public entertainment? How could he tell Riley that strangers were going to be talking about their family? Nathan made a decision. He couldn't let Susan destroy the lives of the 2 people he loved most. But he also couldn't give in to her blackmail without a fight. He called his lawyer, Mr. Thompson, and arranged an emergency meeting. Then he called the head of security at his company and asked him to come to the foundation immediately. If Susan wanted to play dirty, Nathan would make sure he was prepared. But first he needed to warn Tanya about what was coming. Nathan found Tanya in her office, working on a proposal for a new program to help families with medical expenses. She looked beautiful and professional, completely absorbed in her work, and Nathan's heart broke at the thought of how much this scandal would hurt her. Tanya, Nathan said, closing the office door behind him. We need to talk. Tanya looked up and immediately saw the distress in Nathan's face. What's wrong? You look terrible. Nathan sat down across from her and told her everything. About Susan's visit, about the article, about the photos, about the 5 o'clock deadline. He watched Tanya's face go through a range of emotions. Shock, hurt, anger, and finally, a kind of resigned sadness. So she's been watching us, Tanya said quietly. Taking pictures of Riley. I'm so sorry, Nathan said. I should have anticipated that she would try something like this. Nathan, what are we going to do? Tanya asked. If this story comes out, it will affect Riley's school, her friends. People will look at us differently. I know, Nathan said. And Tanya, I'm not going to let that happen. What do you mean? Nathan took her hands in his. I mean, I'm going to pay her. Nathan, no, Tanya said firmly. If you pay her now, she'll just come back for more money later. Bullies like Susan never stop at just one payment. I know that, Nathan said. But I can't let her hurt you and Riley. And what about you? Tanya asked. Nathan, this story would hurt you too. Your business, your reputation, your privacy. I don't care about any of that, Nathan said. I only care about protecting you and Riley. Tanya was quiet for a moment, thinking about their options. Then she looked at Nathan with a determination he had never seen before. Nathan, she said, what if we don't give Susan what she wants? What do you mean? What if we take control of the story ourselves? Tanya said. What if we tell our story, the real story, before she can publish her twisted version? Nathan stared at Tanya. You want to go public with our relationship? I want to go public with the truth, Tanya corrected. That we're two people who found each other at the right moment, who built something beautiful together, and who are planning to spend the rest of our lives as a family. Tanya, that's a huge risk, Nathan said. Once our story is public, we can't take it back. Susan is going to make it public anyway, Tanya pointed out. At least this way we control the narrative. Nathan thought about what Tanya was suggesting. It was risky, but it was also brave. Instead of hiding from Susan's threats or giving in to her demands, they would take away her power by telling their own story first. How do we do it? Nathan asked. We call a press conference, Tanya said. We invite the media and we tell them exactly how we met, why we're together, and what our plans are for the future. And Riley. Riley comes with us, Tanya said firmly. She's part of this story and she deserves to have her voice heard too. Nathan felt a surge of admiration for Tanya's courage. Are you sure about this? I'm sure that I love you and I'm sure that what we have is worth fighting for, Tanya said. I'm not going to let your ex-wife destroy our family because she's jealous and greedy. Nathan leaned across the desk and kissed Tanya softly. I love you so much. I love you too, Tanya said. Now let's go home and talk to Riley about this. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it as a family. That evening, Nathan, Tanya, and Riley sat together on their couch, having one of the most important conversations of their lives. Riley listened carefully as Nathan explained about the mean lady who wanted to tell lies about their family, and how they were going to tell the truth instead. So we're going to be on TV? Riley asked with excitement. Yes, sweetheart, Tanya said. But Riley, it's going to be a little scary. There will be lots of people asking questions and some people might say mean things about us. But we'll be together, Riley said confidently. And Nathan, if we tell everyone that you're going to be my daddy, then the mean lady can't say we're not a real family. Nathan felt his heart swell with love and pride. Riley, you're absolutely right. And actually, I have something very important to ask you. Nathan got down on one knee in front of the couch, pulling out the engagement ring he had been planning to surprise them with later. Riley, I was going to wait for the perfect moment, but I think this is the perfect moment. Will you and your mommy marry me and be my family forever? Riley's eyes went wide with delight. Yes, 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 she shouted, throwing her arms around Nathan's neck. Tanya was crying as Nathan slipped the ring onto her finger. Nathan, it's beautiful. So are you, Nathan said, pulling both of his girls close. Both of you. When is the wedding? Riley asked immediately. Well, first we have to get through the press conference, Tanya said with a laugh. But soon, baby. Very soon. That night, as they finalized their plans for the next day's press conference, Nathan realized that Susan had actually done them a favor. Her threats had pushed them to make their relationship official and public in a way that was honest and powerful. Tomorrow they would tell the world their love story. And Nathan couldn't wait. The press conference was scheduled for 11 o'clock the next morning in the conference room of the Pierce Foundation offices. Nathan had worked through the night with his public relations team, preparing a statement that would tell their story honestly and completely. Tanya had spent the morning helping Riley pick out her favorite dress and explaining what would happen when they talked to the reporters. Remember, sweetheart, Tanya said as she brushed Riley's hair, we're going to tell everyone the truth about how we became a family. And I get to tell them about how Nathan saved us too, Riley said seriously. Because that's part of the truth. Nathan smiled at Riley's understanding of their story. She was right, of course. While he had always focused on how Tanya and Riley had saved his life, they had all saved each other in different ways. By 10:30, the conference room was filled with reporters, photographers, and camera crews from local and national news outlets. Nathan's story had generated interest not just because he was a successful businessman, but because Susan's leaked information had created questions that people wanted answered. Nathan, Tanya, and Riley entered the room together, presenting a united front. Tanya looked beautiful and professional in a navy dress that Nathan had bought her for foundation events. Riley wore her favorite pink dress and carried a small folder containing drawings she had made of their family. Nathan stepped up to the microphone first. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming today. I'm Nathan Pierce, and these are the two most important people in my life, Tanya Williams, my fiancée and the executive director of the Pierce Foundation, and Riley Williams, who will soon be my daughter. The room buzzed with interest as Nathan began telling their story. He spoke honestly about his depression, about standing on the bridge that October morning, and about how a 5-year-old child's simple words had pulled him back from the edge. I was ready to give up on life, Nathan said, his voice steady but emotional. I felt completely alone in the world. And then Riley told me not to jump, and Tanya showed me kindness when I needed it most. They didn't save my life because they wanted something from me. They saved my life because they have good hearts. Nathan explained how their relationship had developed naturally, how he had come to love both Tanya and Riley as family, and how they had built a life together based on mutual love and respect. I know there are people who will say that Tanya is with me for my money, Nathan continued. But anyone who knows us can see that what we have is real. Tanya is an accomplished professional who has transformed the Pierce Foundation and helped dozens of families. She's an amazing mother who has raised a daughter with more kindness and wisdom than most adults possess. And she's the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with. When Nathan finished speaking, Tanya stepped up to the microphone. She spoke about her life as a single mother, about the struggles she had faced, and about how Nathan's love had changed everything for her and Riley. I want to be clear about something, Tanya said, looking directly at the cameras. I didn't need Nathan's money to survive. I was managing on my own, working hard to provide for my daughter. What Nathan gave us wasn't financial rescue. It was love, stability, and the chance to build something beautiful together. Tanya explained her role at the foundation, the work they were doing to help other families, and how their partnership had grown into something that made both of their lives better. Nathan and I are partners in every sense of the word, she said. We're business partners, life partners, and co-parents to Riley. What we have isn't a charity case or a midlife crisis. It's a love story. Finally, Riley stepped up to the microphone, which Nathan had to lower considerably to accommodate her height. The room fell silent as the 5-year-old prepared to speak. Hi everyone, Riley said in her clear, confident voice. I'm Riley and I want to tell you about my family. Riley opened her folder and held up one of her drawings. This is a picture of the day I met Nathan. He was very sad and I told him not to jump off the bridge. My mommy taught me that when people are sad, you should be kind to them. The room was completely quiet as Riley continued. Nathan became part of our family because we love each other. He reads me bedtime stories and takes me to school and helps my mommy help other kids who need help. He's going to be my daddy and I'm very happy about that. Riley held up another drawing, this one showing their wedding day. This is a picture of when they get married. See, that's me in my flower girl dress, and that's mommy in her wedding dress, and that's Nathan in his fancy suit. We're going to be a real family forever and ever. The innocence and honesty in Riley's voice seemed to affect everyone in the room. Several reporters were visibly moved, and Nathan could see that their daughter's simple explanation of love and family was more powerful than any prepared statement could have been. When they opened the floor for questions, the first reporter asked Nathan about his business and whether his personal life affected his professional responsibilities. My personal happiness has made me a better businessman, Nathan answered honestly. Having people I love and who love me back has given me perspective and motivation I never had before. Another reporter asked Tanya about her qualifications for running the foundation. I may not have a college degree, Tanya replied, but I have something that's just as valuable. I know what it's like to need help. I know what kinds of assistance actually make a difference in people's lives. And I'm surrounded by experts who help me with the technical aspects of running a foundation. The questions continued for nearly an hour, with Nathan, Tanya, and even Riley fielding inquiries about their relationship, their future plans, and their work with the foundation. Throughout it all, they presented a unified, loving family that was impossible to dismiss as fake or opportunistic. Near the end of the press conference, a reporter asked about Susan's threatened exposé. My ex-wife has her own reasons for wanting to cause problems for my family, Nathan said diplomatically. But the truth is what you see here today. Tanya, Riley, and I love each other and we're building a life together based on that love. Are you concerned about public opinion? Another reporter asked. Of course we care what people think, Tanya answered. But we care more about being honest and authentic. We know who we are and what we mean to each other. That's more important than what strangers might say about us. As the press conference ended, Nathan felt a huge weight lift from his shoulders. They had told their story truthfully and completely. Whatever happened next, they had presented themselves with dignity and honesty. The response was immediate and overwhelmingly positive. Social media lit up with supportive messages, and the foundation received dozens of calls from people wanting to help or share their own stories. The narrative that emerged was not of a gold digger taking advantage of a vulnerable man, but of a beautiful love story that had begun with an act of kindness. By evening, the story was trending on social media with hashtags like love wins and second chances. News outlets were calling it a modern fairy tale, and praising Riley's wisdom and Tanya's grace under pressure. Susan's threatened exposé never materialized. Faced with the positive public response to Nathan and Tanya's story, she apparently decided that her twisted version would not be well received. Nathan's lawyer also sent her a cease and desist letter, making it clear that any further harassment would result in legal action. That night, as they sat together watching the news coverage of their press conference, Nathan marveled at how the day had turned out. "I can't believe people are calling Riley a hero," Tanya said, smiling at their daughter who was fast asleep between them on the couch. "She is a hero," Nathan said softly. "She saved my life, and today she helped save our family's reputation." "No regrets about going public?" Tanya asked. "None at all," Nathan said, pulling her close. "I'm proud of our story and I'm proud of our family. Let the whole world know how much I love you both." The next morning brought even more positive coverage, with several news programs featuring follow-up stories about the Pierce Foundation's work and the families they had helped. Nathan and Tanya decided to use the publicity to launch a new initiative encouraging other successful individuals to get directly involved in helping families in their communities. Within a week, they had received over $1 million in additional donations and dozens of volunteers wanting to help with their programs. What Susan had intended as a weapon to destroy them had instead become a platform to expand their ability to help others. "I almost want to thank Susan," Tanya said as they reviewed the donation reports. "If she hadn't forced us to go public, we never would have been able to help this many people." "Almost," Nathan agreed with a laugh. "But I think I'll send her a thank you card after we're married." Riley, who had become something of a local celebrity after the press conference, took all the attention in stride. She was most excited about the fact that their story had inspired other children to help people who seemed sad or lonely. "Nathan," she said one evening, "Mrs. Peterson says that 3 kids in my class told someone not to be sad this week, just like I did with you." "That's wonderful, sweetheart," Nathan said. "You started something very special." "Good," Riley said with satisfaction. "Everyone should have a family like ours." As they settled into their new reality as a public family, Nathan reflected on how much his life had changed. 6 months ago, he had been ready to end his life because he felt so alone. Now he was engaged to the love of his life, preparing to adopt a daughter who had brought joy and purpose to his days, and working together with Tanya to help other families find their own happy endings. Susan's threats had been neutralized, their love story had inspired thousands of people, and their foundation was helping more families than ever before. But most importantly, they were happy and secure in their love for each other. Tomorrow they would start planning their wedding. And Nathan couldn't wait to make their family official in every possible way. 6 months after the press conference that had made them famous, Nathan stood on the same bridge where he had first met Tanya and Riley, but this time he was surrounded by love instead of despair. The October morning was crisp and bright, and the bridge had been transformed into a beautiful wedding venue with white flowers and flowing ribbons decorating the railings. The guest list was small but meaningful. Mrs. Johnson, who had become like a grandmother to Riley, Rebecca, Nathan's loyal assistant who had become a close friend, several families that the Pierce Foundation had helped, Nathan's therapist Dr. Martinez, who had supported him through his recovery, and Mr. Thompson, Nathan's lawyer, who had also become a friend and advisor. Riley stood at Nathan's side as his best woman, wearing a beautiful pink dress and holding a basket of flower petals. She took her job very seriously, having practiced her flower scattering technique for weeks. "Nathan," Riley whispered as they waited for the ceremony to begin, "are you nervous?" "A little," Nathan admitted. "But the good kind of nervous. The kind you feel when something wonderful is about to happen." "I'm excited," Riley said. "After today we'll be a real family with papers and everything." Nathan smiled down at his soon-to-be daughter. The adoption papers were already filed and approved. As soon as he and Tanya were married, Riley would legally be Riley Pierce, and Nathan would officially be her father. The music began, and Nathan's breath caught as he saw Tanya walking toward him. She looked absolutely radiant in a simple white dress that flowed around her as she moved. Her smile was brighter than the October sun, and her eyes were filled with joy and love. Nathan had thought he understood happiness before, but seeing Tanya walking toward him to become his wife showed him that he had only begun to scratch the surface of what joy could feel like. When Tanya reached him, Nathan took her hands in his, marveling at how perfectly they fit together. "You look beautiful," he whispered. "So do you," Tanya whispered back. The ceremony was officiated by Judge Martinez, a family court judge who had been moved by their story and had volunteered to perform the wedding. She spoke about love, family, and the power of second chances before turning to Nathan and Tanya for their vows. Nathan went first, his voice clear and strong as he spoke from his heart. "Tanya, 6 months ago you and Riley saved my life in the most literal sense. But you've saved me in so many other ways too. You've shown me what love looks like when it's freely given. You've taught me that family isn't just about blood relationships, but about choosing to care for each other every single day." Nathan turned to include Riley in his vows. "Riley, you are the bravest, kindest, most wonderful little girl in the world. You saw a stranger who was hurting and instead of walking away you chose to help. That choice changed all of our lives forever." Nathan's voice became thick with emotion as he continued. "Tanya, I promise to love you and Riley with everything I have. I promise to support your dreams and share your burdens. I promise to be the husband you deserve and the father Riley deserves. I promise to make our family my first priority for the rest of my life." When it was Tanya's turn, she spoke with the same honesty and love that had characterized their entire relationship. "Nathan, when we met you on that bridge, I had no idea that we were meeting the missing piece of our family. You came into our lives at exactly the moment we needed you, but more than that, you came into our lives as exactly the person we needed." Tanya looked at Riley and then back at Nathan. "You didn't just help us financially. You gave us stability and security and love. You showed Riley what it means to have a father who puts family first. You showed me what it means to be loved for who I am, not for what I can provide." Tanya's voice was steady and sure as she made her promises. "Nathan, I promise to love you through good times and difficult ones. I promise to be your partner in everything we do. I promise to support your dreams while we build new ones together. And I promise that Riley and I will make sure you never feel alone again." When the judge asked for the rings, Riley stepped forward with a huge smile, carefully carrying the rings they had chosen together. Nathan's ring was simple and classic, while Tanya's was the custom ring he had designed with Riley's input, featuring both their birthstones surrounding a beautiful diamond. "Do you, Nathan Pierce, take Tanya Williams to be your lawfully wedded wife?" Judge Martinez asked. "I do," Nathan said firmly, sliding the ring onto Tanya's finger. "Do you, Tanya Williams, take Nathan Pierce to be your lawfully wedded husband?" "I do," Tanya said, her voice full of joy as she placed Nathan's ring on his finger. "And Riley," Judge Martinez said, turning to the little girl with a special smile, "do you take Nathan Pierce to be your daddy?" Riley's face lit up with pure happiness. "I do. I really, really do." Judge Martinez smiled at all three of them. "By the power vested in me by the state, I now pronounce you husband and wife and father and daughter. Nathan, you may kiss your bride." Nathan kissed Tanya softly while Riley cheered and scattered flower petals around them. The small group of guests applauded and cheered as the new Pierce family embraced on the bridge where their story had begun. "I love you, Mrs. Pierce," Nathan whispered against Tanya's ear. "I love you too, Mr. Pierce," Tanya whispered back. "Both of you." The reception was held at the foundation offices, which had been decorated with photos documenting their journey from that first meeting to their wedding day. There were pictures of Riley's first day at her new school, of Nathan and Tanya working together at the foundation, of family outings and quiet moments at home. But the centerpiece of the display was Riley's original drawing of their family, the one she had made during her first week in their new apartment. It was framed and mounted with a plaque that read, "Where it all began. Love always finds a way." During the reception, several people spoke about what Nathan, Tanya, and Riley's story had meant to them. Mrs. Johnson talked about watching their family grow and how their love had inspired her to volunteer at the foundation. Rebecca spoke about how Nathan had become a better boss and friend since meeting Tanya and Riley. But the most moving speech came from Maria Santos, the single mother whose family had been the first one Tanya had personally helped through the foundation. "When I met Mrs. Pierce," Maria said, her voice emotional, "I was at the lowest point in my life. I was working 3 jobs and still couldn't pay all my bills. My daughter was struggling in school because we moved so much. I felt like I was failing as a mother." Maria wiped away tears as she continued. "But Mrs. Pierce didn't just write me a check. She came to my apartment, she met my children, she helped me figure out what we really needed. And more than that, she made me feel like I wasn't alone anymore." Maria turned to Nathan and Tanya. "Your love story didn't just save each other. It's saving families like mine every day. Thank you for showing us what love in action looks like." As the reception wound down, Nathan, Tanya, and Riley found themselves standing together on the foundation's balcony, looking out over the city where they had built their life together. "Nathan," Riley said, tugging on his jacket, "can I ask you something?" "Anything, sweetheart." "Are you happy now? I mean really, truly happy?" Nathan knelt down so he was at eye level with Riley. "Riley, I am happier than I ever imagined it was possible to be." "Good," Riley said with satisfaction. "Because Mommy and I love you very much and we want you to be happy forever and ever." "Forever and ever sounds perfect to me," Nathan said, pulling both his wife and his daughter close. As they stood there together, Nathan reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. He thought about the darkness he had been in just 6 months ago, about how close he had come to missing out on all of this love and joy. "What are you thinking about?" Tanya asked, seeing the thoughtful expression on his face. "I'm thinking about how different my life would be if Riley hadn't told me not to jump," Nathan said quietly. "But I did tell you not to jump," Riley said matter-of-factly. "Because that's what you do when someone is sad. You help them." "That's right, baby," Tanya said, kissing the top of Riley's head. "That's exactly what you do. And now we help lots of people who are sad," Riley added. "So maybe they can find their families too." Nathan smiled at his daughter's wisdom. Riley was right. Their work at the foundation had grown beyond just providing financial assistance. They were now helping to connect people, to build communities, to create the kinds of support systems that turn strangers into chosen families. "I have an idea," Nathan said suddenly. "What if we create a new program specifically for people who are struggling with depression or loneliness? We could call it the Second Chances Program." "I love that," Tanya said immediately. "We could provide not just financial support, but also counseling, social connections, maybe even job training or education opportunities. And we could teach kids how to help sad people like I did with Nathan," Riley added excitedly. Nathan and Tanya looked at each other with the kind of perfect understanding that comes from being true partners. They were already mentally planning how to make this new program work, how to reach the people who needed it most, how to create more stories like their own. "Should we go home and start planning?" Tanya asked. "Actually," Nathan said, "I have one more surprise." Nathan pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket and handed it to Tanya. "I know we said we were too busy to take a honeymoon right now, but I thought maybe we could take a long weekend somewhere special." Tanya opened the envelope to find plane tickets to Disney World. "Nathan," she said with delight, "you got us tickets to Disney World. I figured our first family vacation should be somewhere that Riley would never forget," Nathan said. Riley's eyes went wide with excitement. "Disney World? Really? With the princesses and the castle and everything?" "With everything," Nathan confirmed. "We leave next Friday." Riley threw her arms around Nathan with such enthusiasm that she nearly knocked him over. "This is the best day ever," she declared. "I couldn't agree more," Nathan said, holding his wife and daughter close. As they prepared to leave the foundation that evening, Nathan took one last look around the offices where he and Tanya had built their partnership and their love. The walls were covered with thank you letters from families they had helped, photos from Riley's visits to the office, and artwork that Riley had created during their working sessions. "Ready to go home?" Tanya asked, taking Nathan's hand. "With you too." "I'm always ready," Nathan said. They walked out of the building together, Nathan carrying a sleepy Riley while Tanya held his other hand. Their wedding rings caught the light from the street lamps, and Nathan marveled at how right it felt to be married to Tanya, to be Riley's father, to be part of this incredible family. As they reached their car, Riley lifted her head from Nathan's shoulder. "Daddy," she said, trying out the word in its new official context. "Yes, sweetheart. I'm glad I told you not to jump." "So am I, Riley," Nathan said, his voice thick with emotion. "So am I." 6 months later, as they celebrated Riley's 6th birthday in the backyard of the house they had bought together, Nathan realized that his life had become everything he had never dared to dream of. They had expanded their family with the adoption of 2 more children through the foster system, siblings named Emma and Jake who had needed the same kind of love and stability that Nathan had given to Riley. The Pierce Foundation had grown into one of the most respected family assistance organizations in the country, with Tanya being recognized as Executive Director of the Year by the National Foundation Association. Nathan had stepped back from day-to-day management of his technology company to focus on their charitable work, finding more satisfaction in helping families than he had ever found in business success. But most importantly, they were happy. Deeply, genuinely, completely happy in the way that comes from being exactly where you belong with exactly the right people. As Nathan watched Riley blow out her birthday candles, Surrounded by her new siblings and the extended family they had built together, he sent up a silent prayer of gratitude. Gratitude for the dark morning that had brought him to the bridge. Gratitude for a 5-year-old's compassion and a mother's kindness. Gratitude for second chances and chosen families and love that grows stronger every day. "Make a wish, sweetheart," Tanya called to Riley. Riley closed her eyes tight and made her wish. When she opened them again, she looked directly at Nathan with a smile that could light up the world. "What did you wish for?" Nathan asked. "I wished for us to be happy forever and ever," Riley said. "But I think it already came true." Nathan pulled his daughter close and looked around at his beautiful, chaotic, perfect family. "I think you're absolutely right, sweetheart. I think it already came true." And as the celebration continued around them, Nathan knew that their story was just beginning. They had found each other on a bridge, saved each other's lives, and built something beautiful together. Whatever the future held, they would face it as a family, with love as their foundation and hope as their guide. The bridge where they had first met still stood in the city, and sometimes Nathan would take his family there to remember how their story began. They had even installed a small plaque on the bridge that read, "Hope begins with a single act of kindness. Love grows from choosing to care." Every time they visited, Nathan was amazed by how much had changed since that October morning when he had stood on the edge of despair. Now the bridge was a symbol not of ending but of beginning. Not of hopelessness but of infinite possibility. And sometimes, when they were there together, other people would stop to read the plaque and ask about the story behind it. Nathan, Tanya, and Riley would smile and tell them about how a family can form in the most unexpected ways, how love can save lives, and how sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply tell someone not to jump. Their story had become a beacon of hope for others. Proof that no matter how dark life seems, there is always the possibility of connection, love, and second chances. And they lived happily, truly, completely ever after.